any of this, Matt. But Matt, you have been a real estate agent for several years. You got a bit of a team, is that correct?
Yeah, so man, I've been in the business since, man, I was 21. But I got licensed in 2015. Started at a small team at Keller Williams, and then ended up branching off and starting my own. But it's just me and my executive assistant.
Okay. Oh, I was thinking you had a few more people on your team. It's just the two of you guys.
Yep, just us. Yep,
Right.
she's licensed, so she wears many hats for me. I do quite a bit of production, on the residential side. So, she'll show property for me. She runs my contracts to close, does a lot of my, listing management, lets my dog out. I mean, pretty much anything that I need, but there's just so much, opportunity. And, I did the whole like house hacking thing. I bought my first house when I was 22, and I did the whole, move in using a 3% down. And then I rented it out. I slept on my friend's couch for a couple months, bought another one, lived in that one for a little bit, and then moved back to my buddy's house and slept on his couch. And so I slowly started accumulating a little bit of a portfolio doing the house hacking thing. And, but now, unfortunately, my wife and my soon to be baby would not like to move every other year,
The house hacking days are over, huh?
Yes, they are. So now it becomes more of, the creative financing and the hard money and off market stuff, 1031 exchanges, anything that I can kind of, my investment game is still very much at its infancy because, full-time, residential sales takes up the majority of my time, but kind of slowly starting expanding that department. On our team here. My executive assistant is my little sister. So we're slowly started kind of compartmentalizing a little bit and branching out and doing a little bit more of the investing stuff.
Awesome. So we're going to be going over a case study here in just a couple of minutes of a deal you did in Warrenton. Is that correct?
Yep. Warrenton, right off of Highway 47 over there. And
was this your first flip or have you done others before?
So it's my first flip from start to finish, because I've sold rental properties before that I have, renovated or, had a rental at one time. The tenant moved out. I saw an opportunity to basically demo the whole thing and then 1031 that into a different investment. But from the whole start to finish, from, getting it from a wholesaler, using private money, demoing the whole house and then immediately putting it back on the market. Yes, that would be my first flip.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear about it. And so everybody on the call here, Matt's going to take control of the screen here and just kind of give us, the story of that deal, the before and after photos. And but feel free to ask any questions of Matt. And after the case study's over, we'll all hang out. And if anybody's got any wins or challenges or questions they just want to talk about, we'll stick around and answer any of those questions or just chat about it. So, Matt, I appreciate you doing this. Feel free to share the screen or whatever you want to do and take it from there.
All right. Yeah. And this is actually my first time on your mentorship call. So if I'm going out of format or anything like that, feel free to scoop me back over on course here.
You're doing great. I appreciate you doing this. You're doing great.
Absolutely. So I'll just start with the before photos. I got this deal from a wholesaler. Come on here.
Do you mind sharing who the wholesaler was?
Tim Gossett.
Okay. I haven't talked to Tim in quite a few years, so good to hear he's still out there.
Yeah, he's known my father-in-law, Clay Ezel, since the late 80s, early 90s.
I didn't know Clay was your father-in-law. Clay's on this call quite a bit. So
yeah. So that's my father-in-law, and he's got a small portfolio too. He just retired from 30 years at the fire department. So
Mhm.
now our relationship has grown a little bit more in that, because he's always calling me, hey, what are we doing next? You know?
I think actually Clay wholesaled the house on this call a few months ago. So
That wouldn't surprise me that he's got his hands in pretty much every pot he can. But yeah, Tim, I had a conversation with Tim, and that's another thing too, is that me being in my infancy on the real estate days, I'm slowly starting to increase my wholesaler, bucket, and my investor bucket, so anybody who wants to connect after this phone call, I will pretty much buy anything in St. Charles County, Lincoln County, Warren County. So when he called me and was like, hey, I got something in Warrenton, I'm like, dude, that's my sweet spot. Let's go. So yeah, he called me, made the connection. I did the walkthrough. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I did a walkthrough. I think this was a sight unseen. So I basically didn't walk through this until I went through it with Emily, doing the assessment. But I mean, super cute house. There was an addition on this, which when I drove by was probably the biggest attractive thing to me, because this house is just under 1,500 square feet, but it doesn't look like it from the pictures. Big backyard, almost completely fenced. It did have a one car garage, but I mean, overall, the house for the most part was in pretty good shape. Just cosmetically, was pretty rough. Needed lots of updates. The kitchen was original, metal drawers, or plastic drawers. Didn't have a dishwasher. Didn't have a garbage disposal. So when you walk in, this was the original part of the house, and then the kitchen and the laundry room is over here, and then the whole back of the house was the addition, probably in the early to late 90s. So this is the master, and this is all the addition over here. So you actually have an eat-in dining room. And for me being the real estate agent, eat-in kitchens, eat-in dining rooms, a master suite with a bathroom, these were all things that I was looking for. And honestly, I got very fortunate and very lucky that on my first one, it was something that I was really attracted to. So doing this walkthrough, there was some settling. I did have an engineer that came out and kind of gave me the green light on everything, which that was a little scary, especially already, being under contract and forfeiting, the earnest money if I would back out. But I mean, overall, tons of square footage, which was really big for me. Just because I know that's so important. Master bedroom with the master bath. And this was all wood paneling that we removed, hardwood floors. And then here's the big laundry room, HVAC. So, honestly, as far as what everybody's on this call, for most investors, this is exactly what you're looking for, something that people are living in, that everything is operational and functional. It just needs a good facelift.
Well said. Does it have a basement, or is it on a slab? I can't tell.
It's a crawl space.
Space.
Yeah, it is a crawl space. So the deck was in pretty good shape. It looks a lot more rough than what it really is. Overall, a total investors, 10 out of 10, house, just because the majority of everything was in fairly good shape. There was some exterior cosmetic things that we ran into, but nothing real major. Let's see. And the big deep car garage, this was also an addition at one time too. The side door for the carport was actually right here. That was covered up, and we ended up keeping it that way for the kitchen.
Okay.
All right. I think that's pretty much it. Sorry, just lots of goofy stuff.
Mhm.
I'll bring this back up here. So yeah, I kind of went everything into the deal. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with a crawl space, just under 1,500 square feet, oversized 1-car garage. And, I picked it up for 115. And, before I got my license, I actually, built a property management company, with a previous connection that I had with Keller Williams. And so I had kind of a background in running small rehabs prior to getting my license in 2015. So walking through, I could kind of say, hey, flooring is this, paint is this, yada, yada, yada. So initially my budget was $30,000. Now, the interesting thing about me when I'm putting all these numbers together is, when I had bought it, the deal is that the tenant was going to stay in the property until they found a house. So they would rent it back to me under market value for a couple months.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. They're going to move out in November. And, seasonality takes effect in real estate sometimes. And so I'm like, cool. Well, I'm just going to go there and swing a hammer for 3 months. And I'm going to do this whole rehab by myself, which I learned a lot doing that. And I'll kind of go into some of the challenges that I faced towards the end. But yeah, I did the majority of this rehab by myself with the help of my brother-in-law, who did some stuff for me, as well as another firefighter friend of mine. Laying 1,500 square foot by yourself would have taken, I would still be laying flooring right now if I did it by myself. So yeah, and when I was running numbers, initially, there wasn't much on the market, and not having a basement was really hurting the ARV. But based off of the numbers that I picked it up for, that went into, FasterFunds formula, because I did use you guys for the hard money. So all the numbers ended up working out perfectly. And, my thought is, hey, I'll just go in there and demo and take my time with it. And come January, when I'm ready to get back into the office, everybody will be ready to buy a house again. Anybody have any questions over any of this? Or like I said, I'm still new to the format and stuff.
No, you're doing great.
All right.
I think the questions will come in a little bit, but
right. So I didn't fill out this rehab budget, just because I'll kind of share my my screen with you guys, and kind of show you initially what I had put together for this. So you can kind of just see that, hey, I knew cabinets were going to be, $2,500, with the backsplash, and, vanities, a couple hundred, toilet, $100, so kind of just went through, my rough, estimate, and, rough, I was like, okay, I'm at 42 grand, but me doing the majority of the work by myself, I kind of knew that I was going to save some costs, there. So this was initially my budget that I had, put together for everything.
And then I see that includes your real estate commission and your holding costs,
Yes.
too.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So, and for me, because I was doing everything myself, I learned a lot, because as I was going to Lowe's and buying stuff, I was immediately putting it back into the spreadsheet. So I was able to compare in real time what my budget was versus what my actual costs were. And if I started seeing things get a little bit more expensive in one area, it allowed me to say, hey, you know what? I'm actually running into some unexpected things here. I may be able to shave some things off in this area to kind of balance it out, because I was doing everything at, in real time, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest challenges that I had in this flip was when I walked into the house, I smelt sewer. I'm like, after I ripped everything out, because this house was built in the 50s, it didn't have OSB subfloor. It had 1x6s, was the subfloor, and then they had felt paper underneath it. or over top of it. And then that was what the linoleum and the carpet and all that was. So when I ripped everything all up, the house stunk. And I'm like, man, what is going on? And there was so much moisture in the house. And I'm like, man, something is really weird. Like, what was that? November, December, when we had those -15 and -10 degrees, the windows were completely covered in ice. And I'm like, what is going on? I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up crawling into the crawl space, and it was completely full of water, just like a lagoon. It literally looked like a lagoon in the crawl space. So I had a sewer lateral inspection. They found a huge gaping hole in the sewer lateral. So I ended up having to get that fixed, which that was a $5,200 unexpected chunk of change.
What were you crawling around in there, Matt?
Do what?
What were you crawling around in when you were in that crawl space?
So I kind of got lucky because the original part of the house was the part where the plumbing lines were in. Okay. The addition of the house was like there were no plumbing components, no electrical components. So I was actually able to crawl in the addition side of it and then look through the access hole and kind of see what I was working with. And I mean, it was rough. I mean, I have seen a lot of things, and I'm sure you guys have too, but that was a site that gave me nightmares the first couple nights. So I had to get that fixed, which was a big unexpected repair. And the most challenging part was pulling all of the water. So I had to dress up in a full hazmat suit and climb into the mud and build a wooden platform in the sludge to put a dehumidifier on so I could suck all of that water and moisture out. And I'm pretty sure that my wife was contemplating making me sleep in the garage the first couple nights that I did that.
I wish we had a video of that. That would be fun.
Yeah. That was rough. So that took about a month to get all the water out of there, pump all the water, dry everything out to get to a point to where I can actually crawl in there and work on stuff. Couple other challenges, which I think is common in most rehabs, is you find rotten subfloor from old plumbing leaks or anything like that. I had to redo some tar paper. And then I noticed that, so in this old house from the 50s, they had wooden Anderson windows. Now, the good news is that all of the windows that were replaced were vinyl, but they put them inside of the wooden frame, which was really, really weird. And nothing was insulated. So they just put the window casing around the old wooden window. And that's why all of the windows were freezing, because you had a tremendous amount of moisture that was coming in from the exposed subfloor and then the drafts around the windows. So I had to rip all the window casing out and, foam insulate around every single window. So that was another unexpected, another unexpected challenge. But I think for me, being a real estate agent and showing a lot of investment houses, buyers can pick up that this was a flip as soon as they walk in. And so for me, I knew that although I wasn't going to get a return on that money, but it was going to attract more buyers because I was taking the time to do the right things and not just throw some lipstick on a house and hopefully someone's going to buy it. So I made sure that as I was going through my list and, tackling some of these unexpected challenges, that I was doing the things that I knew were going to be important to a potential buyer.
Good.
Let's see. And then I can kind of show you the after photos. I guess questions or anything? How do I move this thing?
let's scroll through the after photos and any lessons learned in your numbers, and then just unshare the screen and we'll take questions. That generally works the best.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this thing. Oh, here it is.
That's a difference. Looks great.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we did vinyl plank flooring throughout the whole house. Everything was the whole house was killed and primered and painted. And I think that was a big difference because of all that moisture that was in the house. You know, we kind of sealed everything. So I added a dishwasher, I added a garbage disposal, basically tile backsplash, countertops, the whole shebang. And then added the little breakfast bar over there.
I see you put a refrigerator in there. I'm curious, do you always put, well, I guess this was your first flip. Do you generally put refrigerators, or do you think buyers want a refrigerator on a flip?
I would say about 98% of my buyers on a residential house, fridge, washer, and dryer are typically the most negotiated personal property items. So I will always include a fridge in my flips.
Okay, good to know.
And the other thing too is depending upon the price point that you guys are in, most buyers will roll pretty much anything into their loan, but if they're, especially because the market is becoming so competitive now, where buyers aren't asking for closing cost credits, right? So they're paying their down payment plus their closing costs. Like you're gonna, if you buy a $2,500 fridge, like that's definitely something that you can raise the price $2,500, in your initial listing price and get that money back easily.
Okay.
So all new light fixtures, all new paint, all new door and window casings, all new trim and baseboard, ceiling fans in almost every room. This is some of the bedrooms. And the other thing about like flips too, in my opinion, being a residential real estate agent is, there was a little nook right here, and I added a mirror and a light fixture for, a makeup area or a sitting area for somebody to put a desk or a additional vanity or something like that. Like this repair, probably costed me like $150, but those are the types of things that are going to attract buyers because they can envision themselves like, oh my gosh, while you're in the shower, babe, I can be getting ready and, my makeup isn't running because you take a 100-degree shower, So trying to just think of some of the smaller things that, wouldn't cost me that much to do. I think that buyers see a tremendous amount of value in that. The only thing that I did not do in this house is this shower is original. And then I did swallow the expense and did the tile shower and the stone backsplash. This is actually something. So a lot of you probably know that they have like peel and stick backsplashes. So most of the peel and sticks that I've seen are like a rubber material. This is actually like a plastic composite. So when you touch it, it's actually hard surface. It's really cool. I've never seen anything like it before. But they were like $8 a sheet, for a 12 by 12 seat. So that was kind of another thing too, is, okay, cool. It would have been really nice for me to just save, a couple $100, but to a buyer, you know, this just makes their eyes go goo goo over this kind of silly stuff, you know? And then, because this is a crawl space and there's very limited storage, I took the liberty of adding a whole entire wall of storage cabinets. Again, you know, $200 for a 30-inch cabinet, you know, and I added another, you know, cabinet here. You know, it took me like 30 minutes to hang everything, you know, and this, I got a lot of feedback about the laundry room on how they liked all the additional storage. If you guys want to hear something funny, so this is a catering pan in the floor. So in this crawl space, the wash machine drain line came out of the floor, and it was just a hole that they had in the floor. So I was trying to find something creative to basically have all of the plumbing and, you know, the dryer vent and the discharge line. So I found a catering pan and took a hole saw and drilled a hole in it, and I screwed it to the floor. So it actually like looks clean and you don't have a bunch of random pipes that are coming out of the floor. So I thought that was really funny that I did.
Super creative. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing too that I did that I know that most, at least, you know, me seeing a lot of the houses that I see, this garage was hideous. I mean, it had 10 different types of panelings, you know. This is the original side of the house. So it had aluminum, you know, siding on this side. All of this was exposed. So this was probably the most expensive upgrade that I did. You know, but seeing that when a buyer walks in to say, oh my gosh, I can paint this garage and I'm ready to go, that was another big selling point that I got feedback on when I put this house on the market.
Very cool. It looks nice. It looks
Thank
deep.
you. Yeah, there's a little like shelving back there, and you know, I redid all the shutters. And the other thing too is you know, everybody has a dog. Everybody has a dog. And me growing up, I've never had a pet until I got married. And my wife says, well, you get me and we're getting a dog. So it understanding how important a fully fenced yard is to a lot of buyers. I did this fence, you know, very inexpensively, and basically fenced the two fronts. So really the majority of the backyard was already fenced, but I just put a gate right here, and then I added another panel on the right side of the house. And power washed the deck. I power washed the whole house. And I think, again, I'm not to be very repetitive, but when a buyer is looking for a house, you need to do the things to give them the indication that it is not a flip. So I kind of spent a little bit of extra money showing pride in the house and showing pride in the work. Because like I said, buyers can pick it out as soon as they walk in if it's a flip or not. And to most buyers, knowing that nobody has lived in the property, in my opinion, you know, there's always unknowns, especially because, and I will share with you a huge pet peeve of mine. If you're an investor, fill out a seller's disclosure. Like, that is the silliest thing, because if you say, hey, I've never occupied the property, but yet you literally did the whole entire renovation, you know what you did to the house, you know the work that you did. And if you're not providing a seller's disclosure, that's a huge risk to the buyer. And although there may not be anything wrong with the property, you're still cutting yourself short by not disclosing everything that you know or that you did to the property. So that's my real estate agent rant over.
I think it's cool that you're bringing a lot of real estate agent experience, especially buyer's agent experience, to the table here. We don't normally get that information, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you know, me being a real estate agent and also the person who flipped it, my name is on this, you know, and And I have, worked really, really hard to create wonderful relationships amongst the agent community. And when other agents are bringing buyers into your flips, like, you want that agent to have confidence to know that, hey, I've worked with Matt before, he goes above and beyond, he does great work, as opposed to, hey, this is John, and I've had some bad experiences with him before. He's cut a lot of corners. So, you want real estate agents on your side, because they're ultimately bringing you the end buyers. So you want to make sure that you're delivering a good product that ultimately your name is on,
Well said.
Thank you.
Big yard.
Yeah. Big yard. I did sell the shed as is because it was kind of decrepit, but I'm sure that somebody could do whatever they want with it.
Can you do my open houses on my house? Because you sound like an expert. You can explain everything what was done.
Yeah, we're always open to helping out anybody that we can. My executive assistant is licensed. She holds open houses for me as well as other agents in my office. And we're always down to help as much as we can, and then I did very minimal, landscaping on the front, just ripped out all the stuff there and just laid out some cheap mulch. And then, like I said, I had the house power washed, sidewalks power washed, driveway power washed, deck power washed. And I took the liberty to go around and I repainted all the caulking around all the windows, all the trim. Again, time consuming, but not expensive, and, just wanted them to show that, hey, we took the liberty to make sure that, stuff was done correctly. And that's it.
Looks great, Matt. Did you have anything else on your slides, or is that it?
Let me pull this thing up if I
I can't
can.
remember if you had a last slide or not.
So, oh, here's
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
my final numbers. So my final rehab cost was $35,000. Again, I added my holding costs in there. I listed at $199.9 originally, like running comps, like $185. But like I said, taking the time to really go through all the expensive things, because here is probably one of the biggest repairs that I did that probably yielded me the most amount of money is after I finished the crawl space thing, I actually encapsulated the crawl space. So I researched a company online that sells 20 mil plastic, which is a pain in the ass to maneuver and manipulate because it's so thick. But I encapsulated that whole entire crawl space, and then also left a dehumidifier, like a special crawl space dehumidifier for the new buyer. So they didn't have to do anything in the crawl space. And I know for most buyers, going into an inspection, that's going to be a huge cost to them. So I listed at $199. I had 7 offers on the property and ended up selling for $210. And my profit was about $56,000.
Congratulations, man. That's really cool.
Thank
Very
you.
well done.
Yep.
Oh,
I
I'll let you
appreciate it.
finish up here and then we'll do some Q&A.
Yeah, I kind of went over the majority of my lessons on this. And I think for me doing the majority of the work, because I haven't ran that many big, rehab projects before, the timing for me was really challenging. Like, you primer and then you paint the walls and then you paint the trim and then you paint this and you paint that. Like, I would have done everything a little bit different and installed the trim or the floor and the trim, and I would have sprayed everything. I would have sprayed my door casing, sprayed my doors. Man, I couldn't tell you how many days with a damn roller that was just killed me. But the other thing too, and I would say this, which is the biggest lesson in conclusion, is when I ran my profit and loss statement for my real estate business from November, December, and January. So this flip took me by myself and the help of my brother-in-law and my buddy about 71 days. I actually lost more money by not being in the office, working my, my residential business, trying to make more money on this flip. So my biggest lesson now is finding the subs. Me doing the work is not scalable. Me doing the work is not the best use of my dollar per hour activity. My dollar per hour activity is spent calling sellers and going on listing appointments and meeting with buyers and relocations, etc. But going forward, I would just make sure that, you got to ask yourself, are you doing this as a side hustle or are you doing this to scale something? And for me, it was to scale something. So leverage, my next flip is going to be 100% leverage. I will not pick up a hammer or a screwdriver or a paintbrush. So for me, that was my biggest lesson is, yes, it may sound silly to pay somebody $500 to do something so small that you could run over there in a small trip to Lowe's and just take care of it. But is that really the best use of your time? And only you can answer that.
Cool, Matt. Awesome presentation. Can you stop the share and we'll just do a little Q&A. But I thought you did an awesome job on that. I do think it's really cool to spend a lot of time on your first flip, just because you understand what other people go through because you did it once.
Yep.
So,
Yep. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So,
I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody got any feedback, questions, comments, anything for Matt? Just open it up to the group here.
It looked very nice, I have to say, for a first flip. The numbers at the end were very impressive.
Thank you.
You can't complain about that. I also love your optimism, the way you kept referring to what you were crawling through in the crawl space as water, when we all know it was something else, but that's beside the point. As an agent, and it's something that's come up here quite a bit, I assume the after pictures were the listing pictures. Did you consider staging the house?
So I have a very unique thought process behind staging. One, it depends on the price point, because if you're under 250, pretty much anywhere in St. Charles, I don't really do much in St. Louis. I sell pretty much all over, but my primary focus is St. Charles County, Lincoln County, and Warren County. So if you're under 250, you're probably going to be somewhere between 1,100 to 1,400 square feet. And in that square footage, you get an eat-in kitchen, bedrooms, in a living area. And staging, in my professional opinion, only really becomes valuable when you have a challenging space to articulate to a buyer. Most times people can walk in and say, okay, here's my 14 by 14 living room. Here's my 9 by 9 eating area, and here's my bedrooms. I don't think the price point really indicated a staging. Now, I did have a friend of mine who they use FasterFunds Lending, and it was down in South City by Crondelet Park, and that was a very challenging space. It was a small 1-bedroom bungalow in the city, and the main floor was really, really tight. And so I recommended staging in that instance because it would have been very challenging for a buyer to walk in and say, where does my couch go? What does the depth look like? Like, okay, if I can fit a couch in here, am I going to be like staring right in front of my TV or, something else like that? So for me, and, every listing that I sell that's vacant, if it's under that 1,500 to 1,600 square foot threshold, I typically don't recommend staging. One, because we're in an inventory shortage under 300, like you can't keep that on the shelf at all. So for one, I don't think it's the best use of your money. But I only stage when there becomes a challenge of how do buyers utilize the space, or if it's in a luxury price point where buyers are able to look at, like, they have more options. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that would be my 2 cents on that.
I was gonna ask the same question, so I'm glad you asked that, Rick. Anybody else got feedback for Matt, one way or another? Love the questions.
Wait, Brian,
Yeah,
you were gonna ask the same question about the water or the staging?
the staging. I already asked the water question or commented on it.
Keep the questions coming. This is my first call. I like this. This is my first call with this mentorship call, and you know, would love the opportunity to continue to connect with you know, a lot of you know, the Faster House and FasterFunds group.
Was your
Hey, Matt.
sewer line, was it Orangeburg? Is that what they said it was?
No, so luckily for me, it was actually PVC from
Okay.
the edge of the foundation all the way to the yard, and then it was cast iron. Yeah, trust me, every sewer company that I called, everybody said we ain't getting in there and digging. But luckily for me, the application was perfect for a sewer liner as opposed to a replacement.
Right on. We've scoped, I don't know, 15 or 20 properties in Warrenton, and everyone in Old Town has been that Orangeburg stuff that's like tar and cardboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I got really lucky. I got
Yeah.
really lucky. Come on, I know someone's got something else for me before I go.
did you sub anything
Just to
out on
make
this
people-
one?
I did sub the tile. Yes, I did sub the tile. And as much as I wanted to attempt it, I would have had to have bought all the tools for it. So I was like, and I had a couple people owe me a favor. So I definitely utilized the tile, and yeah, I would have been laying floor and still tiling today.
So you,
Who did your photos?
oh, go ahead.
Josh West with West Photography and Design. He does a lot of stuff for some agents in my office.
I'm curious, when you were going through, you mentioned trying, and this is the way I interpreted it, so tell me if this is right, but you kind of mentioned trying to make it not look like a flip, as in,
Yeah.
do you feel as a real estate agent that works with a lot of buyers and stuff, that in general buyers have a negative impression of a flip?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, and I think the biggest, so if from a real estate agent perspective, spend money on the finishing work. The finishing work can be picked out from a mile away. And when a buyer walks in and you got paint on door handles and door hinges, and the trim, you know, looks like a toddler did it, like, buyers literally pick up on that. And here's the challenge: from an appraised value, that isn't necessarily hurting you, but from a perceived value, the buyer is picking that up left and right. And, you know, just, and for me, like, most investors don't spend the money on the things that are valuable most to the buyer, right? They skip the roofs, they skip the HVAC, they skip the foundations, they skip the sewer lateral, right? So a lot of times and this is nothing against, you know, investors, I'm just generalizing this, right? But most buyers feel like a bait and switch. You have a beautiful house that you basically repainted and painted the cabinets, you know, and basically painted everything. So then it's like, okay, yes, a new house, but you don't provide a seller's disclosure, and then you get them under contract and you're wanting them to pay $300,000 for a house that, you know, has a 30-year-old roof, you know, no HVAC, or, you know what I'm saying? And so you kind of get them a bait and switch, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to move forward. And, you know, that is just something, that's just my opinion, that buyers can, you know, feel that left and right. And especially, like, this is kind of an interesting trick, like, too. When you walk into a vacant house in the wintertime and it's 55 degrees in there, and the buyer knows that it's been sitting vacant and it's cold and it doesn't feel homey, you know, like so turn on your damn thermostat and keep it cool, because those are just the little things that like literally as soon as we walk in, man, it's cold in here. You don't want that first thought and first impression to be, hey, it's too hot and it smells musty because you're a cheap ass and don't want to turn the AC on, and or vice versa for the heat. So just put yourself in a buyer's position here. Separate, you need to combine the two, because from an investor, this is a numbers game to you as an investor, but this is a home to a buyer, and too many investors separate those two, which, you know, in turn can hurt them.
Mhm. Well said. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Thank you.
I didn't know you were gonna, I don't know, I should have known. I knew you were an agent, but we have a lot of people out here that are agents, but you are, I don't know, you're bringing it today. I like
I
that.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like, you know, sometimes we get into, you know, sometimes we get into like a rhythm, you know, where we're focusing on finding the deals and making the profit. But my mindset going into it wasn't profit. My mindset was, hey, I am bringing a property to inventory. I'm bringing a property to the market. And that mentality kind of shifted my whole mindset throughout the whole flip process.
I like it.
Matt, I just
Honestly-
want to reiterate what you said, like walking through the house and thinking about clients' experiences before taking it to the market is so important. I feel like I walked a lot of houses this fall that weren't selling, and every one of them had just little details, you know, like, I mean, just a couple $100 worth of work to make it the experience feel good. And I think something else I frequently see is you experience this, you're in the house every day for 3 months and you overlook those little details. It's easy to do. You're like, I just want to get done. I just want to get it listed.
Right.
But if either you can go through with fresh eyes or have someone else who's really detailed go through it and, you know, make sure all your outlet covers match, make sure, you know, all the paint is cleaned off, make sure when you take photos, you still don't have paint buckets and brooms in the, you know, space and stuff like that. Just really
100%.
think about the experience.
Yep.
Every time those houses will sell faster than the ones that people are just rushing to get it listed.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we're in a very challenging market right now, you know, inventory, you know, shortage across the board. And I think a lot of investors have a mindset of, oh, well, I have a house, so somebody will buy it, you know, like, oh, there's nothing on the market, so I have to buy it. But because buyers have been really struggling lately because they've been hit in more ways than one. So the one is there's a lack of inventory, right? But they've also doubled in interest rates. Whereas in 2021 and 2020, buyers were willing to see past a lot of those smaller issues because the value behind their lower rate was a lot easier for them to accept some of those smaller things. Whereas now buyers are getting hit with a double whammy. There's a loss of inventory and they're paying, you know, 300% or 30% more, you know, on their mortgage payment because of interest, you know, mortgage insurance. And so I think, like, as an investor, we need to have the mentality that we are here to help the real estate market, not here to make a buck, because if you're focusing on the numbers, you're going to miss key critical components that are going to be, that ultimately help you in your profits regardless, you know? So I think you're right. Like, just putting your mindset in the buyer's experience and you'll get that money back plus some, you know, if you focus on all the right things.
Well said.
I like it.
Got a couple minutes left. Anybody else got anything they want to jump in with? or for that matter, just a win or a comment or a question on your own deals. Matt can help answer any of those too.
Well, I had a pretty winning week last week that I guess I would assume goes back to the general lack of inventory. I had the listing in South City. Well, first of all, I had a house down on McKenzie that most of you FasterFunds people are probably familiar with. It was under contract. That buyer stepped out because the termite inspector found shelter tubes in the garage, which I'd never had one fall apart for a termite inspection. And then you couldn't even find termite damage. So clearly he wasn't a serious buyer. So I guess a week ago, Saturday, that one went under contract again. The South City house went under contract for $12,000 over asking. And then I listed another one coming soon, the middle of last week. Just a little ranch house in a so-so area. Between Friday afternoon and Saturday, I had 27 showings and 7 offers on a house that was cute, but really shouldn't have been that big of a deal. And it went like 13,000 over asking. So there's definitely plenty of hungry, angry buyers out there that are getting outbid on stuff and are losing their mind. Well, either that or maybe the higher interest rates are pushing more people into lower price points. But yeah, I mean, they've been hitting the market and selling fast, at least for me.
It's good.
Congratulations, Rick. Yeah, sounds like you had an awesome week.
Yes, it was.
So did you offer to treat for the termites and they still walked on you?
Oh, it wasn't even so on the inspection notice, you can check the box for, they didn't ask me to treat for termites. They said we're out.
They just
We
said
found
we're
the
out.
shelter tube. We're gone.
Yeah, you're right. They weren't a serious buyer then.
You're right. It was totally
awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Rick.
I did treat for termites on that house too. Or no, I didn't treat. I did the preventative treatment, which was like $600, and that gave the buyers like a full year or a free year of like quarterly inspections or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I try to do like some of the smaller stuff because it's a lot from a real estate agent standpoint. It's a lot easier to counter out like small stuff, if all the larger stuff is taken care of, so like for me, when I'm negotiating, like I try to tell my buyers, like, we're not going to ask for an outlet that has a reverse polarity or an anti-tip bracket or something like, you know what I mean? So I try to make sure that I'm focusing those funds on, hey, yeah, I'm asking for this value, but you don't have to mess around with any of the, other silly stuff too. And that prevents people from really, like, when they're writing on your offer or where they're writing on your house, that you've eliminated any unknowns from their inspection report. So your offers 9 times out of 10 are going to be a lot more solid, because you've eliminated a lot of that, unknown too.
Well said. All right, Matt, appreciate you taking the time today.
Absolutely.
If anybody is looking for an awesome agent, I know we got some awesome agents on the call here, but I also want to promote Matt for taking the time to come on the call here. So if anybody's needing an awesome agent, even though he's Keller Williams agent, that's all right.
Hey, at least we're in the same parking lot, right?
That's true. That's true.
I have a question not related to his story, just something I walked yesterday. I don't know what to do with.
Go ahead.
So I walked a property in Marthasville yesterday. It's 12 acres. It's got a house on it that needs, I don't know, an $80,000 renovation, maybe 90 to 100. It's in a floodplain. 100% of the 12 acres is in a floodplain. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to go there. I just don't know what everybody's opinions are. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's beautiful until it rains. Well, and I don't, like, American Bank won't even lend on floodplain property. Does FasterFunds care? Or?
We probably
They don't
wouldn't
lend
do
on
that.
them.
Floodplains, yeah. The problem with floodplains are your flood insurance typically is so expensive that it like, it, and especially in this market, you have flood insurance that you're gonna have to pay for, and you have a higher interest rate. It's gonna be hard to find a buyer. I mean, your best bet is to try to like find an end buyer who wants it without you even having to own it.
Yeah,
And
I don't want to own it. I don't want to get stuck with it.
Yeah.
The house, the house hasn't been flooded. That's not why it needs so much work. It's just a 60, 70-year-old house that's been vacant for a while because the lady moved, down to the lake, and there's no evidence that it's ever flooded. You can kind of walk the property and see, leaves in the tree. You can kind of see if you've been in nature that there's been water up to this level on the tree. There's no evidence of that, but that doesn't matter because you still have the insurance issues. So, but the 12 acres, it's got a creek, I don't know, it's a cool property. I hate to pass it up, but I really don't want it.
If it's cheap
Well,
enough,
send the
if it's cheap
information.
enough, it'll sell.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Send the
say. I mean,
information to Rick.
I was going
Rick's
to say, I'll
gonna
take
buy
the
deer.
pictures, Rebecca.
Deer can still swim.
what price range is it in, Rebecca? What would generally price range?
I don't know. Do I compare it to other properties, acres in, because there's on comps, do I compare it to other properties that are 12 acres with houses? Probably not.
I wish
don't know.
Gabe was still on the call. He would probably be able to help a little bit with that. I don't know.
Yeah. I looked up, in Maris, you can search by like the disclosures and stuff. So I searched by floodplain disclosure. Yes. And I went out like 10 miles, and all the properties that have sold that have been in a floodplain were only like partially. So like the house wasn't, but like part of the land was. I haven't found anything that's 100% floodplain.
So describe the house to us. What's the size and the age and so forth?
It's if it were any other lot, it would be a tear down.
Sounds like you got a lot in the floodplain then.
It's fixable because everything's fixable,
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, you say that it's 12 acres is a lot of ground. You can move
Yeah.
around a fair amount of dirt to get, a house out of the floodplain. So, I mean, a nice 12 acres is worth some money.
Yeah.
So,
And it's right outside of Marthasville, real close to Washington. It's got active water running through it. I just don't want to own
I
it.
think Brian's right. I would treat it as a lot and assume you just move dirt and like almost talk to a surveyor to figure out how high up does a house need to be built to be out of the floodplain. Because if you treat it like that, I think you have more options. I wouldn't give any credit or offer for the house. I would assume you tear down the house and then you try to move dirt to build, someone can build their dream home.
Yeah.
Above that, because I'm assuming it's just all land. It's not like no one's doing any kind of agricultural farming or.
No, it's zoned agricultural, but I don't know, it's probably 75% wooded. There's like an open kind of road that goes all the way back to the creek.
Yeah, people would like it for like if they're hunting, if they
Yeah.
like to hunt and stuff like that. I mean, if I was a hunter, I'd put a food plot in and you've got a creek. I mean, you've got the perfect spot. Rick knows.
When are you going to become a hunter, Suzanne?
I let Brad go. That's like, I'll be supportive. I like to eat what he brings home, but I don't. Too cold for me.
But getting back to the comps, could you find houses similar square foot in the floodplain? Forget about the lot. Could you find
I couldn't
a house
find any houses. If it was in a floodplain, the house on the lot was not.
So does the house sit where it could be easily removed from the lot? Could you fix the house and sell a cheap house and then wind up with 11 acres?
Like
Not the way it's situated. It's kind of a long, narrow, maybe an acre wide or 2 acres wide and deep. It's just, the house, I feel like the house it's fixable because I've fixed disgusting houses, but as far as the lot goes and the location, it seems like someone would rebuild. That's a good, I don't know. Or just a family that wants to, bootstrap it could live there and I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to own it. That's the thing.
Hey, Rebecca, I
Yeah.
live out in that area.
Yeah.
I'd get together with you. I'd like to go down there and take a look at it with you.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure how to get your information, but if you
I'll
can,
I'll connect you guys.
connect us up if you could, Brian. I've got some people that are looking for land right now, so I'd like to get them hooked up with you.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Brian. Hook us up.
Brian, I can do it because I might tag along if Rebecca takes Todd.
All right.
Well, if everybody's going, I want to go.
I can show you pictures of the house right now if anyone's got a minute.
Yeah, I do. I'd be interested if you don't mind.
All right. Let me get the link real fast. Hold on.
You haven't said what they're asking for the property.
They didn't throw, I haven't put them in offer yet. They're in the hunting phase. They wouldn't give me a number.
Well, the only thing coming up is Thunder Chickens, and that's not till the middle of April.
Hey, Rachel, can you stop the recording
Oh,
if you already haven't?
Thank you.